Hello, welcome to Karla Dawn Live. My name is Gordy, Bristol, and it is Wednesday, the 22nd of August. Welcome to the Mamie Clayton Library and Museum. Mamie A. Clayton, that is. Don't forget the A. I'm very happy that the director opened the doors of this wonderful facility to me. There's so many wonderful activities going here, and they accept memberships. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. And then later, we're going to have a call-in. My guest had a delay issue. Something came up, and he's about an hour and a half out of the city of Los Angeles. Therefore, he was unable to come to set today. Just found that out just a few hours before show. So we are going to do what's called a third screen call or another screen call-in. We're going to have a box show up with Eric Chambers. Eric Chambers is a filmmaker. He's won Emmy Awards. He's also working on the story of Emmitt Till. We all know about Emmitt Till, a civil rights legend, and so we'll talk a little bit about that story, the impact that it had on civil rights, and what it means today. So you'll want to stay in because he had a relationship with Emmitt Till's mother, and he calls her his surrogate mother. She passed away in 2003, but there was a relationship that they developed in more recent years prior to her passing, and it's really nice that we have him to share that story, that intimate relationship they had through being a grandmother-grandson type relationship. And I've known Eric for some time. He's really a great guy, and I'm really curious to hear more about that story and the documentary that he's now done and now expanding. And I think what I saw was Don Lewis might be involved, so that would be pretty exciting. So I will tell you about the Mamie A. Clayton Library and Museum a little bit. It's here in Los Angeles in the Culver City area of Los Angeles. If you're not familiar with Culver City, it's a very, very nice area with so many great things going on. Very big community, a lot of restaurants, shops. It's a great walkable city, and there are a lot of medical facilities here. There's a hospital in this area as well. So it's a pretty popular nightlife scene and shopping in Culver City, which is very, very close to West LA. Okay? So welcome, and thanks for hanging in there again. With the guests canceling, I had to juggle and change a few things around, but it's all worked out. Not canceling, but not being able to come on set. So the Mamie A. Clayton Library and Museum maintains the world's largest and most academically substantial, independently held collection of rare and out-of-print books, documents, films, music, photographs, and memorabilia on the history and culture of Americans of African descent. The arts have since time immemorial and been the treasure of the civilizations. The creator and intellectual expressions produced by a people proclaim their existence. Today, the great part of African American history lays dormant in basements and attics, so the perseverance and preparation of the history and culture of Americans of African descent is of paramount importance, and that's what they do here at this location. Their goal is to establish the Mamie A. Clayton Library and Museum as a world-class cultural institution that instills pride and helps to promote greater intercultural understanding. And you can come, they show films on weekends. In fact, this Saturday they're showing a film. So it's ongoing information and really a nice facility, and I've been here a few times prior, and it's nice to be here again to do the show. And around me definitely are people of significance in time, and I love being able to bring that to you. I want to tell you about Mamie Clayton a little bit. She was born in 1923 and then passed in 2006. She was a woman of great vision and used her time and resources to save African American history for all people, so the collection would serve as a cultural compass to a more complete understanding of American history. That was her passion, and that's what she wanted to do, and here lies a museum in her name, which is so wonderful. It's like taking a hobby and turning it into something that can be very helpful and beneficial and, of course, educational to others. So it's really, really nice to be here and be a part of it. They have a great film archive. Like I said, the sheet music and record library, you know I would love some of that. I bet you there's some Motown in there. I really want to walk through that part again. And then the artwork is just really, really nice. Old art pieces as well. So I think if you're an art lover, history lover, come on down and visit. And I thank the director again for welcoming me into the facility today. It was really kind, and I appreciate that. And it was something that will go down in the Karla Dawn Live archives of locations. As you know, I go on location. So let's get to some Emmitt Till. I want to tell you a little bit. So Eric Chambers, if you're watching, love for you to go ahead and try this. I've never done a pop-up screen during a show before, so bear with me, everyone watching. It will be new to me. I've watched it on some others a few times, but he suggested this is a way we can make it happen. So I'm trying to see now. This might be him calling up. Oops. Try again. I don't know how this works. Everybody, bear with me. Let's see. And is he going to flip the screen? Eric, where are ya? Okay, let's try it again. I'm going to see how I can get him to pop up. I think I see it loading. But Eric Chambers is the author of Dining with the Ancestors. He's an Emmy winner and a documentarian. The About Truth is the name of the documentary on Emmitt Till. It's Emmitt Lewis Till that he did. It's a 30-minute documentary about the case, and he's now expanding upon that with more details and information and some celebrity power, which is always helpful in a project. He had a relationship with Emmitt's mother, as I said, and, you know, fondly called her a surrogate mother. And there I see Eric
Karla.
Chambers. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so sorry I couldn't
And
be
you
there
know what the
live and
crazy
in
thing is?
living
I
color.
can't hear you, Eric, so that's the sound isn't coming out. What do we do? You told me about this split screen. How do I hear you, darling? You look fabulous. Everybody can see
Well,
you.
well, thank you. I can hear you.
Oh, darn, this is not going to work.
So you're going to
Maybe
have
I'll
to
just have
turn
to
up the
take my
audio.
mic off. I think that's what we'll do.
Yeah,
I'll de-mic. Okay.
probably so.
See, everybody, this is all. Okay, Eric, speak.
Okay,
Eric?
I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Hi. This is
Hi.
this is a first for me on this. I love trying new things.
Well, I'm glad that you were open to it. I really wanted to get there live and in living color, but for things beyond my control, I was able to suggest this, and behold, here we are. So this is the first. So now you can do this international now.
Love it. I knew there was a way, but I didn't know it was this simple. So, no, I just didn't even look into it. You know, you get caught and happy with what you're doing sometimes. But I'm always open to new and improvements. So welcome. And how's the weather on your side of LA?
Well, here in Orange County, the weather is actually good. You know, it's a bit warm, but nevertheless, thank God for air conditioning. No.
Exactly. I'm actually going to enjoy this hot weather a little bit longer before it goes.
Right.
Soaking it in. It's feeling pretty good. I think the guests are happy. I'm sure a lot of your friends are on there watching too. Let's get to this. You have done a lot. Before we get into the Emmitt Till, tell me just a little bit about your history and background. I know you've won many awards and worked on many projects. We met through what we both do, hosting. So let everybody know a little bit, about what you do and what your history entails.
Well, I'm originally from the city that Kara forgot, New Orleans, Louisiana. Came out here in 1982 to San Diego to be a part of the U.S. Navy. And of course, my dream was always to do what we do as television hosts and red carpet hosting. And I've been able to do that. I've persisted with it. It's not easy, but just like you're doing right now, a lot of times it's a one-man band, and you just have to continue to persist. And that's what I've been able to do. And after working at KGTV in San Diego, I was on Smooth Jazz 98.1 in San Diego for 18 years with my Jazzful radio show. And I was also the news director there. And of course, I came here to work at CBS, and that's where I won the 9 Emmys and Golden Mike Awards. And then after I left there in '01, that's when I started my own television show on the Word Network. And that ran for 9 years, 137 episodes. And I've had everybody on from Beyonce, Magic Johnson, Harrison Ford, Arsenio. Even Aretha Franklin told me once that she watched my show. You're talking about an honor, because I met her. I saw her twice, and I met her just once.
Yeah.
And it was after the NAACP Image Awards. And she was in the limousine, and her window was down. And I was like, Aretha, I was like, it's such an honor to meet you. And so I had a chance to chit chat with her, and she told me she did watch my show. And that's always an honor to me when people that you admire, and they know who you are. That was the same thing with Arsenio and even Rick Warren, the author of The Purpose Driven Life. When I first interviewed both of them, they were like, "Oh, I watch your show." I was like, "My show?" You know, so
Feeling. I can totally relate because being on Facebook Live, which has a wonderful audience. I think Aretha was one of the two that we did some Facebook messaging to, and she commented, and many others do. And you never know who's watching. That's the thing about this business. You just don't know all the time who's watching. And
that's right. Even right now, you never know whose life you're impacting. And just yesterday, I got an inbox on LinkedIn from a lady out of New York City, and she was telling me how she was such a huge fan of my show. And so I decided, you know, we went back and forth, and I gave her my number. She called me, and she was just so honored to speak to me, and I was so honored to speak to her. And I said, I'm just, you know, grateful to be able to do what I do.
I appreciate it. And we've run into each other many times over the years at events, running around doing the same thing, you know, with the microphones,
That's right.
cameras.
And you remember where we first met?
Tell me.
It was in the City of Industry at the Palms Hotel. It was an event from for the Urban League. I think it was in 2010, and they were honoring Barry Gordy. And remember, Ollie Woodson was there singing.
Yeah.
And there you were in this beautiful sequin gown, looked like you were at the Grammys or something. And I was like, man, what a beautiful, sexy sister she is. I worked up my nerves and went over and met you. You know, I was like, I ain't got nothing to lose. You know, and so here I am on your show all these years later.
And look at that. Well, it's a great thing you approached me because this is a point that I was talking to someone recently about. That we go to many events, you know, a lot of viewers as well, but in the industry we attend a lot. And I'm a single woman now. I was married for a while, have 2 kids, but people just, I don't know if men are intimidated, they just don't approach the way they used to. And whether it be just to be friends, cordial, business, there are a lot of reasons why people can approach you, but they just don't. So I, you know, applaud you for doing it because we've had this long friendship since then.
Well, I used to be that way, but what broke me out of that, really what broke me out of that, and I still have the book, it's called How to Pick Up Women by Eric Weber. And I had to get trained on it because otherwise I was like so many guys, just very shy. Man, what happens if she's mean? What happens if she rejects me? And now I can meet anybody. Of course, doing what we do, you have to be able to have skills and communication. And when I approach people, I just approach them in a friendly manner. So it's rarely any other way. And so that's just who I am. But nevertheless, during my Navy days, I probably would have had a nervous breakdown trying to meet you. You know?
Yeah, that dress, my killer dresses too. So I know exactly.
Oh man, no, you came to slay that night, and you did.
Oh well, it's great we met that. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the years and running into you at events. You know, I think it was NAM one time with the camera, and you nabbed me up and did a quick interview.
Right.
You know, you've interviewed me. Now I'm interviewing you. It's been long overdue. But what really caught me was the connection that you have with the Emmitt Till's mother and the documentary you did. So I want to start to get into that because that's really, really important and relevant for the current times we're in, all times, and then it was a major civil rights movement. So tell me how you got to know Emmitt Till's mother.
Mrs. Mamie, her name is Mamie Till Mobley, and as you said, she became a surrogate grandmother to me. In 2000, there was a play that came to the city of Los Angeles called The State of Mississippi versus Emmitt Till. I went, saw the play, loved it, and at the time I was on 98.1 in San Diego, and I was like, man, I would love to bring this play to San Diego. So I asked the director, what would it take to bring it here to San Diego? And he said, you. And I was like, okay, I was working at CBS at the time, making really good money. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so he charged me like $3,000 to bring it there. And it cost me maybe another $2,000 to $3,000 to host it, you know, paying for the rest of the admin stuff. And I asked him if he would call Mrs. Mobley and ask if she would be a guest. And she said, sure. And so I flew her and one of her cousins out. And it was, I tell you, Karla, it was probably the best $5,000 to $6,000 I've ever spent because I invested in somebody else's story. And as a result, the harvest has been plentiful for me. In fact, next Tuesday I'm going to be on Sirius XM satellite
Okay.
on their the Karen Hunter show, and I was on KTLA recently, and of course my book Dining with the Ancestors. All of that came about as a result of a picture of me at dinner with others with Mrs. Mobley.
Yeah.
And so she became dear to me. She became, like I said, a surrogate grandmother. We would call each other. And even the day that she died, on January 6, 2003, she died that afternoon, but I was scheduled to call her back that evening about coming back to be a guest with me here in Southern Cal. And unfortunately, that was not able to happen, but I was honored to have spoken at her funeral. You know, this is somebody that I learned about in the history books, and there I was speaking at her funeral, and I'm forever grateful. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Emmitt Till was her only child,
Yeah.
and she was her mom's only child.
Right. I was gonna,
So when they murdered him, they murdered her bloodline. She's got other cousins and others like that, but me and another guy by the name of Keith Beauchamp, we're both from Louisiana, both went to Southern University in Baton Rouge, and ironically, we're both are the two guys who have been documentary filmmakers, you know, trying to keep this story alive.
yes.
You know,
So
so even as Mrs. Mobley and Emmett, go ahead.
let's go back a little bit for those watching. I mean, I know there's no one out there watching. I'm sure that does not know the Emmitt Till story, but just kind of do a quick recap just for everybody on, you know, he was born in.
On who Emmett was. Emmett was a 14-year-old kid from Chicago.
Oh, okay, you go.
He was a 14-year-old kid from Chicago, Illinois, who was brutally murdered August 28th, 1955 in Money, Mississippi for allegedly, well, for whistling at a white woman, and she claimed that he tried to touch her or something like that. And nevertheless, yeah, Carolyn Bryant, her name is Carolyn Bryant Dunham now. She's 84 years old. And of course, that was what they said, what they called the watershed moment of the modern civil rights movement.
Absolutely.
When Sister Rosa Parks on December 1st, 1955 decided not to give up her seat, she was thinking about Emmitt Till, she said. And of course, as a result of her, we got Dr. King, who got brought into national prominence. So as a result, the Emmitt Till story really was the seed that brought forth the harvest of some of the greatest days of the movement.
Yeah, because at that funeral for Emmitt Till, they came out in mass numbers, and the mother demanded an open casket. He was so brutally murdered. His face was totally disfigured that people did not want the casket to be open, and she insisted that it be open because she felt that if people saw what they did to her son, that it would impact them in a way that cannot be explained in words. And that's exactly what happened.
Absolutely. She wanted the whole world to see what they had done to her baby boy. And because of that, for one, it made Jet magazine explode off the shelves. That really turned Jet into a household magazine for many, many years, that one edition. And in the meantime, she just wanted the whole world to see.
Right.
And I'm grateful, you know, that even in the midst of her pain, she decided to be very heroic and put a face on the misery that our people dealt with.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, she was very,
Yeah,
because she was in so much pain, as you said, to lose her only child at this time, and the way it happened, for her to insist on other him in that fashion. She, you know, she knew how to change that to a positive direction and make a difference. The boy make one.
yeah, it was, you know, it was terrible what happened, but I did a couple of interviews with her on radio and video when I brought her to San Diego, and she mentioned something to the effect of it's quite amazing how something so tragic could end up so good, you know, and through her own words. You know, that's why they called her son the sacrificial lamb of the modern civil rights movement.
Exactly.
You know, there are a lot of people who try to draw parallels to the Trayvon Martin case. Well, there are parallels in the fact that they were both teenage black boys, but the most significant difference to me was in the case with Trayvon, his family was able to be very vocal about it and get out and campaign and go across the country. In the case with Emmitt Till, that wasn't the situation, because at the repast for Mrs. Mobley, I interviewed some of her family members on video, and they told me that they pretty much had to hide. They had to like deny him, like Peter, because they said had the people known that they were related to him, by nightfall the Klan would have been coming to burn their houses down.
Right.
So the dynamics were totally different, you know, back then.
Right.
And so, but
The freedom of speech here is definitely in this time total contrast to what the opportunities were at that.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And when this alleged incident happened in the store, when he supposedly touched the woman, the way I kind of heard it is that I guess buying something, and he went with his two cousins. He was visiting. He wasn't even at home. He left his mom to go visit with some family in a different part of town, and he was unaware of a lot of the rules. So if we think back in the times of, as a black person, how you had to be so careful with every little thing you did and said, where you walked, how you talked, the way you even handed someone money. If your hand touched them, they can get upset.
That's right.
And say anything. And so the cousins were maybe 4 years older than him, and they knew much more about it. Emmitt was only 14. But it's just sad that you have to be so careful, you know, what
Right.
you're doing. And it's just interesting to bring that now to today's time with the new presidency and how things have kind of gone back and reversed a bit. How people, again, have to once again kind of watch and not be careful because it's not their place, but people are acting out in a way feeling more entitled again.
Absolutely.
See that? Do you see that kind of happening?
Oh, without question, without question. You know, we have gone back in time, you know, when it comes to race relations in this country, and people have gotten emboldened because of the current guy in the White House. You know, we were doing really good. And then all of a sudden, when this dude came in, man, people just lost their minds. And, but prayerfully, it'll be over soon. You know, this long national or international nightmare will be over, you know, with all the corruption and other things that are happening. It's sad, but at the same time, you know, people got what they bargained for.
Right, right. Now,
And a lot of those who voted for him have been affected by him,
right.
especially when it comes to jobs and health care and all of that. And it's sad, Karla, when you have people who vote against their own best interest.
Yes.
There's nobody that especially no politician that I'm in love with that much that I would vote against my own best interests. I'm sorry.
I understand you totally on that. We're just lucky to have you here to talk about also your personal relationship with Mamie Till. Now, I know Bradley was her name at the time. Yeah, Mobley was added later. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, what happened is her maiden name was Carthan, Carthan. Then she married a guy by the name of Bradley, and that was a short-lived marriage. And then she was married to Till, Louis Till. She married him when she was about 18 years old. So she was married to Louis Till. Then she was married to the Bradley guy. I think his name was Pinky Bradley. And then she was married to Gene Mobley. That was her last husband, who died, I think, in 1999, 97, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So by the time I met her, he had already passed on. And so, but, you know, when her husband, Louis Till, when he died, you know, she got a telegram from the army. He was over in Italy. And the only thing it said was willful misconduct. There was no specifics as to why he died, but later it was found out that he allegedly raped a white woman and then also murdered one. And as Ms. Mobley told me in the interview, she said that what happened is during the trial, they tried to draw comparisons like father, like son.
I see.
Like his daddy was running around with white women. Emmitt was trying to get with white women. And so she told me about that parallel that they tried to do, but it was really inaccurate. It was basically just a matter of racism as opposed to, you know, him trying to be like his dad in that regard, because he really didn't have that much of a relationship with his father, you know, at the time, because his dad actually was forced to go to the military because he was abusive to her at one point. And so the judge gave him an ultimatum. Either you serve time in the jail or you serve time in the military.
I see.
So he chose the restitution to be the military, and went to Italy. And ironically, once he was executed there, actually, he was, I think he was killed by, yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, when he died there, his body was never brought back here. He's buried there in Italy, like so many. There's a cemetery for veterans there, and there's really hundreds of veterans who died over there and never got back.
Right. That's right. That's right. Wow. Well, it's
But she
interesting
was
to
a
hear that. Go ahead.
No, but she was a, I was really honored to get to know her. We used to have some really great phone conversations. And when I brought her to San Diego in 2000, it was just amazing. It was at ECC, it's called the Educational Cultural Complex. And I remember taking her to church with me to St. Stephen's Church of God in Christ with Bishop McKinney in San Diego. And she was so excited because she told me there were times in which she sat at home in Chicago dressed, waiting for a ride all day that never showed up. And so she was really excited about going to church. And like I said, I thank God for her, and I thank God for the relationship that we were able to have for those, last 3 years of her life.
What did you learn the most in those 3 years that you knew her from her about Emmitt Till and the story, what she doing after that?
Well, I learned that she was a very strong lady. While there are a lot of people who were still either feeling sorry, and there were some people, when I did the play, they wouldn't even come to the play because they were saying that it was just too painful to watch. And I asked her, I said, Miss Mobley, what do you say to those people? And she said, basically, watching a play is one thing, but living it is a whole different story. And she sat there through 3 performances of her worst nightmare. So imagine that, your only child, and you're watching it unfold in a play 3 times, but yet you got other people who are claiming it's too hard to watch.
And this is the
And so as far as I'm concerned, we didn't have the crowds that I'd anticipated that we would have there, but nevertheless, we had a great time with the people who did come. Like my Black Studies professors, including Dr. Shirley Weber, who is now a California Assembly member, but she was there, and Starla Lewis and some of the other Black professors, Alizar Tesfamariam from San Diego City College. And I was grateful that they all got a chance to meet her as a result of, one of their students, myself, that I was the one who brought her to the city. And a lot of people were able to just shake her hand and take pictures and just say thank you. Thank you for your work. And also realize that there's a lot of people who thought she had died long before she died because she wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. What was she doing? Was she being very vocal many years after the passing of her son for a long period up till her death, or was she kind of quiet and just living her life?
Well, she was still being vocal with her Emmitt Till Foundation and the Emmitt Till Players. She was still doing it, but you can be vocal, but you don't get the same publicity on a national basis.
Right.
So she never stopped the fight. But the thing about it is, like in this case with Trayvon Martin, when that happened, people started to draw the parallels again. And as a result, a lot of people got interested in the case who didn't know about it. And I'm always amazed, Karla, at how many of our people who are not familiar with it.
Right.
And then I'm also always familiar, it's interesting when I see white people and Asians and other Mexicans, and they know all about it.
Go figure, right?
I know it.
Started, as we were saying, I mean, once Emmitt was murdered and the way he was, murdered, it really, I think what the key part was when people walked in that funeral and saw that open casket and could see the face and what they really did to him. I mean, his eyes were out. I mean, just so I can't even begin to think. And and I actually saw footage of her describing when she saw him for the first time. And for anybody who didn't like what was happening to Black people at that time, to walk up and actually see what a white man did to someone I mean, that just brought out, of course, anger, which is not the best way to handle it, but I think brought out more people willing to join a movement and become a part of making a change and getting, that civil rights happening. And by the time Martin Luther King really was there. They wanted to march. He probably brought more people out. I think it brought people out of their houses. Would you say?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were afraid at the time.
Mm.
And then finally, it just got to the point where, okay, enough is enough.
Right.
We've had enough.
Yeah.
Beginning with Sister Rosa Parks, and of course we had the bus boycotts, and even for a long time they were unable to really protest the way they really wanted to. But for the most part, it did start a new revolution, and I'm just excited that I learned about the story, and I'm just one man trying to do my part to make sure that when we buried Mrs. Mobley, we didn't bury the story, that people will continue to remember her and remember Emmitt for years to come. And one of the things that she told me that was interesting is when I interviewed her and I was asking her about, but she told me that when they were trying to discuss whether she was going to go to Mississippi for the trial, one of the channels in Chicago broke into programming to interview her. And she said she got so much racist hate mail because the people could not believe that they would break into I Love Lucy to talk about this junk, as she said. They were more concerned about watching Lucy than a woman losing her one and only child in such a brutal manner. But nevertheless, she said she received a lot of hate mail from people because of that. But again, unless it's happened to them, they don't quite get the gravity of this disaster, this tragedy.
Right.
So, but I'm just happy, like I said, that I was able to, invest in this and in her story, and as a result, be one of the chosen ones to continue to tell it.
That's right. Well, it's great that you're doing that. It's important for people to really understand the full scheme of the relevance, to understand what was done to Emmitt Till and what his mother went through, how he came about, how it impacted the community and the civil rights movement, and how relevant it is today. And the way he was murdered, people don't really think about it. His body was discovered in the Tallahatchie River, bound with barbed wire and attached to a 70-pound cotton gin, totally disfigured, taken apart. It just, all that over, supposedly whistling, it just shows just a peak.
And initially they actually buried him in Mississippi, without her even being there. And then they had to dig his body up because they were trying to hide all the evidence and everything. And then they shipped it on the train to Chicago. And of course, you've seen those iconic pictures with her, with it in this wooden crate. And then, they took him to the funeral home, and
they didn't want that open. They told the funeral home they were instructed they are not allowed to open it.
Absolutely. But she wanted to make sure that it was indeed her son.
Yes.
And one of the ways she was able to identify him is by a ring that he had on his finger. And the ring was something that once upon a time was owned by his dad. And once his dad was executed in Italy, they sent back some of his personal effects, and one of them happened to have been that ring.
Yes. Do you know?
And so that's how.
Did she get that ring, keep that ring, or did she bury him, leave him with
You know, I don't know whatever happened to the ring. I only saw pictures of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they buried Emmitt with the ring or not.
Right.
And of course, they have a tremendous exhibit at the new Smithsonian National African American Museum in D.C. That includes his original casket. And it's powerful.
Well, Mamie Mobley said that her son, Emmitt Till, was a very good student. He was really excellent in art, science, and spelling. So, you know, a lot of a bright future ahead of him. He's still a prankster here, like fun to do things, but sometimes, you know, today it would not be looked at as anything then. You know, racist community, they go terrible. So I feel for her, but you feel that she died, feel happy to try happiness again later in life after losing her son?
Oh, say that one again?
You think she found happiness in later years after losing her son? Did she be able to live and go forward, or did she always live in?
Oh yeah. No, she didn't mourn the rest of her life. You know, she went on and got her master's degree, and she taught school for many years, and she became a public speaker and just an advocate for our people.
Okay.
You know, and the interesting thing to me, Karla, like recently here, the Dallas Cowboys owner was talking about any players who protest with the kneeling would pretty much be cut from the team. I beg to differ. I don't think he would do that if Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott did that, two of his best players. So that's a lie.
Right.
The players don't understand the power that they have. But I'm also disappointed in some of the players who won't put up a fight. And I personally am tired of just seeing our women having to lead these campaigns.
Right.
It's time for men to stand up.
That's right.
And if you got a person like Mrs. Mobley who led the fight, and you got all these other women, including the ones who started Black Lives Matter and what have you, come on, everybody can't be scared. Everybody can't be, I have too much to lose as a result of my income. Well, you're making more income than most of these people will ever make.
Power in numbers, always. Power in numbers, no matter what we do. And we always need to continue to remember that. You make a lot of valid points. And I want to let people know that in the end, Emmitt Till's murderers were let off. The whole community came up, the white community came up and started supporting him, correct? And even though they admitted to shooting him, they had witnesses. One of his relatives was the last one to see Emmitt, his cousin, his uncle. It didn't matter. At that time, they still were let off. So it's a tragic story, but like you said, there's the positive, tremendous positives that have come out of it. Everybody watching, I hope that they do some more research on this story and speak up whenever you have the opportunity. Power in numbers. Form groups, join groups. And would you like a final word? Because I know it's time to wrap.
Yep. I'd like, if people would like to see the trailer that I've created for the documentary, they can go to the Cut Network, the Cut CUT network.com. And I've got a trailer on there. And in the meantime, I'm in the process of trying to raise some additional funds so that I can do the new documentary that I want to get on Netflix and other networks. But in the meantime, if anybody would like for me to come and do a screening of the current documentary, it's a 30-minute piece that I ran on my show on the Word Network, then I'm willing to do that, whether it be at an organization, and even if people have, enough people to do a screening at their house, we'll do that.
Maybe the Mamie,
because
maybe right here where I am at the Mamie Clayton Museum.
That would be fantastic too, especially if my girl Karla can orchestrate that.
No,
you got the hookup.
No, I'll get in with the director and see if that works, and I will definitely be in attendance.
Please do. I would love that. I've shown the video. For one, it ran on my television show a few years ago, and then I showed it at San Diego State University, my alma mater, and I showed it at San Diego Mesa College. Okay. And even after I was on KTLA, I hadn't seen the documentary in a while, and it inspired me all over again. My own work did.
Nice.
And then that's when I was like, you know what? I need to finally finish this.
That's right.
Or take this to the next level.
You do that, Eric. You're very talented. You're just, like I told you in a text, you're a really nice guy. And I love nice people. I love to celebrate people that are making a difference. That's what I do here. I like to inspire, educate, motivate my audience. I appreciate everyone from tuning in. I appreciate you taking the time. And sorry you couldn't come on set today. It didn't work out. But you know what? It worked out. And that's what
it did. It did. Out. This is fun. I've seen these, these call-ins like this before. I'd never been a part of one.
Yes.
But I was like, we got to figure it out, because I was sorry that I didn't want to disappoint you. I didn't want to let you down and not be at least a part of it, or leave a sister hanging.
Thank you.
And so, but through technology, we're able to do it. And so now you've learned something, I've learned something. And now, like I said, you can hook up with people from all over the world now. Absolutely. If you need to.
Absolutely. Well, again,
So it was by design.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm closing out now. And I thank you so much again. And you continue to do well with that project and make a continued difference and impact. Everybody look out for Eric's work and his project. And I'll post anything. Feel free to share it on my pages. And please leave comments. I'm sure Eric will look back over them if you have any questions. Again, make someone smile today and spread love and kindness. I'm Karla Gordy Bristol, and thanks so much for tuning in to the Karla Dawn Live Show. I'll see you next Wednesday, and please share the page. Go to my website and like me on YouTube. Take care. Bye, Erin.
Thank you, dear sister. Okay, love you much. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.